Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
You can tell a lot about where a company is going by looking at where it's been. ConocoPhillips, Alaska's oil and gas company.
The National Weather Service.
Okay, we're all set. Oil is okay, gas is sumped, hydraulic reservoir is full. Now that your pre-flight's complete, it's a good idea to go and get a weather briefing from your local flight service station. In this country, it's real important. How's it going, Dick?
Pretty good, Don. How you doing this morning?
Yeah, good. Heading up to the hill today, Southeast Fork. What do you got for weather up in that area?
Well, basically, we've got a pretty well entrenched high-pressure system over Siberia. It's keeping the lows pretty well south of us along the chain in the peninsula. We'll probably be in the fringe area up here of some middle and high clouds, 12,000 scattered with high thin cirrus. Lower clouds and possibly some light precipitation in the southern Susitna Valley, but I don't expect any up in the northern valley or along the range today.
Okay. All right, real good. Thanks, Dick. And we'll file a flight plan. Because of some of the extreme weather conditions up on the glacier and the environment there, we want to be sure and bring some special survival gear along. For sure, a couple of sleeping bags, an extra parka, some snowshoes, some good survival gear. Your life could depend on it. Okay, a good count is a word cigar. And that includes C for controls, and controls move free and easy. I for instruments. I've got that's a directional gyro set, altimeter set. Gauges are in the green. Top flap open. G, gas. A, attitude. R, rudder set. Rudder set. Planning, 3 souls on board the aircraft. I have 4 hours of fuel on board. 2 hours in the southeast for the navigation. Survival gear on board. 2 hours in the last one while on fuel. We'll start losing our manifold pressure because of the density of the air. So
Okay, real good. But you still don't have visual. Well, after lunchtime pass at about a 45-degree angle, and we're watching the wind, coming over the time that we have insight.
And good evening. Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Kimberly Hepner, and today is November 26, 2013. When we're not here, you can always check us out at www.arh.noaa.gov, or you could always call us on the phone line. We have a weather information line, 1-800-472-0391. And if you are on the internet often, you can always use Facebook or Twitter to keep up with us, and we're also on YouTube. Now, taking a look at the satellites for the day, we have a nice spinning circulation across the northern Pacific, and this low is helping to stream moisture well up into the eastern parts of the Alaska Range on over across the rest of the Aleutian chain. We have some moisture that's streaming across the Bering Sea. If I put that into motion one more time, you can see how this low is helping to bring this wraparound moisture all the way up into the Bering. We also have a low pressure system that's kind of petering out across the Pribilof Islands area. But taking a look closer to home, this is our satellites today, and here's the low pressure system that I just mentioned that was diminishing across the Pribilofs. Across the Gulf waters, you can see a huge plume of moisture is streaming up towards south central. So a couple of lows in the area, this one to note across or just southeast of Kodiak, and then another low pressure system is just moving up towards the Dixon entrance. Across the state, we have a cold air mass that's pushing in from the northern Arctic coast back towards the Kuskokwim Delta area. I'll put that into motion one more time, and you can just watch the moisture plume just streaming on up towards south central. And you can almost see clearly the two circulations across the southern, approaching the southern parts of the Gulf waters. Now, looking at your weather today, if you are, or just getting home, you would have seen that we had some weather first across south central. Everything is all snow across where this low pressure system had developed earlier today and is bringing some shower activity all across the eastern parts of the Kenai and snowier conditions as it moves north into towards the Alaska Range. A stationary boundary is over and across the southeastern parts of the Gulf, and the low pressure system developing south of the Dixon entrance area has a warm front that's extending up towards the southeastern areas and is starting to bring some light shower activity here this afternoon. Just to the south of Kodiak Island, this low pressure is just to the south of the one to the north, and this is helping to stream that moisture further north up into the Gulf area. Weak low pressure is all across much of the eastern parts of the state back towards the Bristol Bay area. In Bristol Bay, they have some lingering fog conditions all along the coast here. Light showers to the north and northeast, and along the Arctic coast, mainly just colder temperatures, but a low pressure system is sitting just off to the northwestern parts of the coast with a cold front lingering over into the Bering Strait area, and snow shower activity is occurring along this area. Along across the Alaska Peninsula, rather benign right now, just low clouds, even though it's not showing up on satellite here. But these low clouds are streaming all the way across the Aleutian chain, and just some light shower activity across the central and eastern Aleutians. We have high pressure building across the western part of western part of the Bering here, and this is going to continue to build in through tomorrow across the Bering. So the high pressure strengthens to 1030 millibars, and this is going to help to keep this low pressure system south of the Aleutian chain from making much northern progress. But we'll continue to see some shower activity with the diminishing low near the Pribilof Islands, and we'll see some fog across the area through the Bristol Bay and the northern parts of the Alaska Peninsula. Meanwhile, the cold front across the Bering Strait is going to make some progression into the western coastal areas, bringing some light snow shower activity from the northern Arctic coast all the way down through south of the Seward Peninsula. We'll see a few lingering showers across the eastern parts of the state here just with the low pressure, and the snow across the Alaska Range and south will possibly mix with rain as you get towards the Yakutat area. Where this warm front is pushing to the north, the rain will increase across the southeastern areas overnight, and will first start out as light rain and then change into moderate to periods of heavy rain as we get into your forecast for Wednesday. So for Wednesday, expect this warm front to continue to push inland, and shower activity will be all across this low pressure system across the eastern parts of the Bering. So expect rain showers all across the southeastern Gulf coastal areas, and a possible mix of rain and snow across the Prince William Sound. But with the colder air mass that we have moving down across the northwestern areas tomorrow, expect eventually that rain will change over to snow fairly quickly. So with a cold front moving through, we'll have some light snow showers across the interior parts of the state, and light snow all the way continuing across the northwestern areas. We'll get a little bit of a break across the southwest for your Wednesday forecast as high pressure continues to build in across the northern parts of the Bering. Light shower activity, a mix of rain and snow as they linger right around the 34 to 36 degree mark across the central parts of the Bering, and the low pressure system still staying to the south with the ridge just to the north. It's going to be some heavy rain mainly around the center of this low that's sitting further to the south there in the North Pacific. So expect a mix of light rain and light snow showers, nothing of any accumulation across the eastern and central part of the Aleutians. And then as we head into your forecast for Thursday, high pressure will continue to dominate across the Bering areas and all the way out towards the Alaska Peninsula, drying things out across the southwest all the way to the northern Arctic coastal areas, with just some lingering snow showers across the eastern parts of the Brooks Range. The low pressure system across the northern part of the Gulf at this time will be kind of steady, and there's another low pressure system that's going to be moving up from the North Pacific, bringing some additional rain showers towards the end of this week, heading towards the southeast. Looking across the southeast on Thursday, expect a little bit of a break from the heavier showers that you see on Wednesday. So mainly just lighter showers on Thursday morning's forecast, and then breaking up later on in the day. And taking a look at your temperatures after this afternoon, it was warmest across the southwest near the Dixon entrance, with temperatures in the mid-40s, between 45 and 46 degrees, and wrapping all the way across towards Yakutat in the mid-40s. And then you notice the temperature gradient here across the Prince William Sound down towards the Kenai was right around 35, with colder temperatures just to the north and west of this area, dropping into the upper 20s to lower 30s, and a very quick drop as you look over the Copper River Basin and north towards the Arctic coast. A very extreme temperature difference here, with temperatures in the single digits along the Arctic coast. Temperatures in Arctic Village got down to -18, so we have a very cold pool right here in the northeastern part of the state. Looking across the northwestern areas, it was down in the minus teens, so -10 to -14 along the northwest. And right ahead of this cold front, had a mix of temperatures in the teens and dropping just below zero on the northern side of the Seward Peninsula, and then up into the mid-20s to the south of the Seward Peninsula across the Kuskokwim Delta region. We saw a change of temperatures here as well, because temperatures ranged from 27 degrees to the teens near the Killbuck Mountains. Across the Alaska Peninsula in the mid-20s to mid-30s. And then looking for your overnight temperatures tonight, not much of a diurnal change actually. Across the chain we'll see temperatures in the mid-30s, which they're pretty much in the mid-30s right now. Across the western parts of the Gulf, expect a very big temperature gradient here from in the upper 20s to the lower 30s. And then as you move north, very quickly getting into the teens, and across the Seward Peninsula, still seeing the colder temperatures as you wrap around to the Arctic coast with temperatures well below zero here. And as you drop further south, minus 30 probably near Arctic Village, and then across the Gulf coastal areas, expect temperatures ranging from the Alaska range will be right in the teens, and then as you drop to the coast, somewhere in the lower 20s to the mid-30s as you head towards Yakutat in the southeast will all pretty much be in the mid-30s to lower 40s as that warm front is pulling to the north. And looking at your high temperatures for tomorrow, not much of a diurnal change expected because the cloud cover and the rain will keep things cool across the southeast in the upper 30s to lower 40s. And across the coastal areas, expect temperatures to moderate right around the mid to lower 30s back towards the Kenai Peninsula. And then as you move to the north, expect temperatures here to be in the 0 degree range or less, especially as you head north towards the Arctic Village and the Brooks Range north. Across the northwestern areas, temperatures will warm up into the lower to mid-teens and back towards the Kuskokwim Delta in the lower 20s to the 20s in the Alaska Peninsula, where you see another temperature gradient here, which will increase to the mid-30s and 30s across the lower 30s across the Pribilofs, and tomorrow's high temperatures across the rest of the Aleutian chain will be in the mid to upper 30s. Looking at your flying weather for tomorrow, much of the state is going to be in MVFR conditions with the low pressure dominating across much of the state. Maybe a break across the Brooks Range during the day in between the two low pressure systems that are moving across, and across the Gulf waters with all the low pressure and the clouds here, it's going to stay MVFR with periods of IFR across much of the southeastern areas. And I forgot to mention earlier that we do have a fog advisory out through 9 p.m. for areas in the southeast. So IFR conditions, especially for tomorrow morning, if lingering fog in these areas and another warm front pushing through the area will make conditions IFR here. And then IFR conditions possibly across the northern parts of Prince William Sound and extending north across the central parts of the Alaska Range. And then where the front moves in tomorrow across the northwest, expect MVFR and IFR conditions here as well. Now looking at your pass conditions for tomorrow, Anaktuvuk Pass will be VFR to MVFR, and looking at Adigan, we'll go VFR to MVFR as well. And Lake Clark and Merrill Pass will be both VFR going to MVFR conditions through the day. And then Rainy will be VFR to MVFR. And looking at Windy Pass will be MVFR for most of the day. And Isabel Pass would be MVFR as well. Mentasta Pass will be MVFR. Tanita Pass will be MVFR, one of the areas that go to IFR. And Portage will be MVFR with MVFR conditions possibly clearing a little bit later to VFR on the western entrance there. Looking at Chilkoot and White Pass, you're in IFR all day tomorrow. And looking at your freezing levels, as you can see, it's just right along, hugs the Gulf coastal areas just north, and then on back through the central parts of the Bering. The freezing heights are not going to really change through the next 24 hours from today to tomorrow. So 2,000-foot levels across the northern parts of the Gulf to 8,000 feet just south of the Dixon entrance, and then just a little bit cooler across the Aleutian chain. Looking at your icing conditions for tomorrow, mainly with the fronts that are moving through the area across the northwest, expect light icing here and across the Alaska Range, both here below 10,000 feet and then below 13,000 feet all across the southeast for tomorrow. Looking at your jet stream for tomorrow, quite the amplified pattern with several low pressure systems across the area. The strongest jet stream is noted just to the south of the chain with a low pressure system that's south of the central Aleutians at 120 knots, and high pressure over a ridging over the northern part of the Bering with a jet of 75 knots across much of the state out of the west and southwest. Across the south, the low pressure is going to be changing and lifting a little bit further north as we head in the day tomorrow, but mainly a northerly flow behind this system across the Gulf between 90 and 65 knots. Looking at your tomorrow's 9,000-foot winds, we're mainly a westerly flow with the strongest winds across the Bering Strait area, just pushing these low pressure systems. Like I said, this is quite the amplified pattern and very similar conditions with the low pressure system south of the chain. We have a easterly push off the northern areas and north to northwesterly through the state with some strong gusty winds during the day tomorrow between 30 and 50 knots across the southeast out of the southeast. Looking at your turbulence tomorrow all across the west coast, look for extremes across the southern Kenai into the northern Kodiak areas and across the southeast, and also just north of the low pressure system just in the central part of the Aleutians there. Looking at your marine forecast for this Wednesday across the south central areas, look for northwesterly flow and mainly variable just from the Sound and the northern part of the Gulf. Seas here will be between 4 and 6 feet, and across the inlet and further south, seas will be between 2 and 4 feet. Gustier winds with freezing spray along the Barren Islands area. Looking at your Thursday, sorry I'm jumping around like this, but looking at your Thursday forecast, southerly flow across the southeastern areas and then 20 to 25 out of the south. This is going to be picking up along the outer waters out of the south to southwest. For your Wednesday forecast, expect flow to be out of the east across the outer waters here between 20 and 25 knots, and it stays the southeast near the Dixon entrance around that surface low. And I already mentioned the northwesterly flow across the south central areas for tomorrow, and then looking at your Thursday forecast, a northerly flow to northwest all across the Kenai through Kodiak, and just a little bit of a break in the northern Gulf waters, wind at 10 knots out of the east here, and then seas will be between 4 and 8 feet and 3 to 5 feet across the inner areas. And then North Pacific will see, and the eastern Bering will be 20 knots out of the north and northeast with seas around 5 to 7 feet. For your Thursday forecast here, a northerly flow, small crafts across much of the Akpen at 30 knots with seas between 6 and 13 feet. And then for your Aleutian area, expect 25 to 35 knots with gales in the central part of the Aleutians, and expect it all to be out of the northeast with seas between 6 and 13 feet. Not much change in your Thursday forecast, still continuing gales across much of the central areas with 30 knots continuing out of the northeast and out of the east as you get towards Shemia. For your western coastal areas, a northerly flow, small crafts near Nunivak Island, 20 to 25 knots across the area with seas between 5 and 7 feet. Possible some freezing spray as you head towards the St. Lawrence Island area. Looking at your Thursday forecast, a 20 to 25 knot wind again out of the northwest with small crafts just near the southwestern coastal areas with seas between 5 and 7 feet, and freezing spray as you head further to the north. Around the Arctic areas, expect winds to be out of the west and northwestern areas around the north from the Kotzebue Sound towards the Chukchi Sea, and small crafts here with seas between 3 and 7 feet. 7 and 9 feet as you get towards Kotzebue Sound. Easterly flow across the northern Arctic coast with ice in place, strongest towards the eastern parts of the coastal areas. And then your Thursday forecast, 15 knots getting stronger towards the Sound at 20 to 25 knots out of the northwest here. Seas be lower than the previous day, between 1 and 5 feet. And just to review your forecast again tonight, foggy areas across the southeast, rain increasing through tomorrow, and then snow showers across the Gulf coastal areas and light snow starting across the northwestern areas and rain across the central part of the Aleutians, with a little bit of a drying out as we head into your Wednesday forecast across the extreme southwest. Light snow showers, colder temperatures moving in, and foggy conditions and rain staying over the southeast, but rather benign across the Aleutian chain. All right, well, thanks for staying with us for your forecast, and I'll be back with your Thursday forecast your Thursday forecast tomorrow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.